G'day everyone, welcome to Classic Prattle. My name's Marc from the YouTube channel Marc and Cars, and this is...
Simon from YouTube channel Classic Car Dude.
We have a special guest.
Ta-da!
And I'm Deryck from Classic Cars and Coffee.
Thanks for listening, watching if you're watching this on YouTube. Today we're going to prattle on about whatever we care about. You may not, but what have you been doing, Simon?
I sold my Land Rover Defender.
Yeah, good.
Because it was awful. And,
Hear that? Hear that?
It was probably the best example in Australia. 25,000 kilometres.
Really?
Yeah. 2015, in the
Life
last
just
6
went out.
months of manufacturing. And I thought it'd be fun to own and drive, but it was, it was just miserable to drive around town.
Sure.
Fully compromised at every turn.
Do you think we were compromised a lot here in Australia because we didn't get the automatic option?
I didn't know there was an automatic option.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot for sale in the US. Comments below if anyone can correct me here, but I'm almost certain I've seen automatic Defenders come up.
It's an interesting thing because you go from, the gearbox is ponderous, so you go from massive dissatisfaction to about 2 weeks later learning this black art of the pause and all the rest of it, to going, I've got this, oh man. But it doesn't start off like that. It's as all those transfer case and then the two diffs and then all the joints between them and everything catch up with each other. You've got to match revs and become very, very skilled at it. And it took a while, but once you get it right, it's quite fun. But, it's like the Titanic to turn around, and either short wheelbase one, a 90.
Yeah.
And anyway, so look, we had a sort of a love-hate thing. It was nice off-road, really good off-road, but ponderous and dreadful around town, and 1948 design, when you went to look right, all you got was a B pillar, and all the rest of it, and nothing really works on it. But it looks gorgeous. Anyway, I was happy to see it go.
Yeah, okay.
So 3.5 litre Rover?
No, 2.2 litre turbo diesel out of the Ford Transit van, which is called the Puma engine, which they obviously made millions of, and that's the Ford Transit van engine, which is in the current series until it finished in May 2016.
So where's the love? Because everyone used to love the Defender.
Oh, they still
Was it the 3.5 litre
wearers,
V8
they're all
that they fell in love
nutcases.
with? Was it that one that they fell in love with?
No, look, it's the total romance. It's not a specific engine, because there's been a 5-cylinder turbo diesel. There's been the 3.5 litre Rover petrol engine. I think there was even a BMW V8 in one of them. A whole lot of various engines, and it's still the same cart sprung, terrible. It's still the same compromises, but with better engines. So it's sort of a romantic thing. You sort of like the donkey that you have to keep the horse company. This is like that.
What a great line.
It is the donkey to keep the horse company.
Now, on that point, right, do you think it's got to be the G-Wagon factor? Terrible car, but they're a bit cool at the moment. The Vox
G-Wagon cool.
G-Wagons are off the scale.
Yeah,
I've been
super
watching them. I could get a nice 6-cylinder one about 2 years ago, $135,000 Australian, that is.
Which is a lot of money for a $40,000 experience.
I don't know. I think they were about 230, 240 new.
Don't confuse value with cost.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. No, exactly.
Don't you work in real estate?
But, in Hong Kong, you'll see the 7-litre version with the side pipes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which
the
is
AMG
highly
thing.
necessary in Hong Kong.
Of course
I've got to have that.
For those 11 people that can afford to drive a car in Hong Kong. Yeah,
So happy it's gone.
yeah, okay, good to hear.
And I could go a G-Wagon. At the moment, I'm looking at Cayennes, which I'm kind of ambivalent about because they're really
Do you need
just
an SUV?
VW. Yeah, we got a camper trailer. That's what this was all about.
Ah, okay.
This whole journey was because we bought a camper trailer.
Got it.
And we're heading bush, doing the grey Nomad,
But you also need an SUV to get through the Claremont underpass these days.
and the snorkel.
That's right.
You
And down
need-
Stirling Street, etc.
Yeah, of
All
course.
that's necessary.
Seriously.
To give some perspective on this podcast to listeners or viewers, we've had a pretty wet week. There's been some flooding, entertaining all those people that bought all those Ford Rangers and Toyota Hiluxes here in Australia got to use it for a change.
Yeah.
Smug.
Yeah.
But I've got to love it. We have a Lamborghini 4-wheel drive that it comes to Classic Cars and Coffee, right? Super nice guy. And a white one. I'm not sure exactly which model it is, that one. And And he comes in, and I park him up on the grass, which is about an extra. This is about high. They've got to go up. He hits the button and raises the car.
Theatre.
Hey, who wouldn't? If you had it, would you do it?
I said the same thing. I said, "This is your one and only opportunity, short of getting bogged in the at the yacht club."
Yeah, fair enough.
That's theatre, isn't it? Yeah.
So, Deryck, I know you are talking about Defenders. You're daily, not a Land Rover product?
It's a Range Rover Sport, yeah.
Yeah.
2010 model. So it's done about 110,000 Ks, which is not a lot for a daily driver like that. It had a time when it was really costing me money.
You're out the other side of that, do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, good.
So I've redone the suspension twice. Because the air suspension goes in the tick of the clock at 70,000 Ks.
Just on that point, it happens with Cayennes too.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you my Cayenne story later.
We'll come to that.
Yeah.
So that had to go, and then we had a lot of trouble with the fuel pump in it and a few other things. So you know, all of a sudden it cost me 10 grand in one bang.
Without inflation.
But on the other hand, they've depreciated a lot, and I'm saying that with a degree of like, hey, isn't that good? Because it's gone from the original purchase price of 113,000 or something like that to about 25,000.
Yeah.
And it's done 110,000 Ks. It's still the same car, and it's still in great condition because the great thing about Range Rover Sports is that their build quality is good.
Yeah.
And so it's not
unlike every other English car ever.
Unlike a lot of others, because BMW at the time owned it. It's not the 1970s, which was an exciting period where Lucas ruled the world. But so in actual fact, I've looked at it and turned around and said, if I bought a Range Rover Sport now for 150, I'd be here in 5 years' time for $30,000.
Yeah.
And I'm the hater of depreciation.
Same thing.
Same thing. Pauses it at the end. Exactly. So I always had this theory with cars. I don't mind spending a good deal of money on a car.
Yeah.
I just want my money back when I finish playing with it. That's my theory.
Oh, look, we all live with that hope and dream, but when it comes to classics, there's very little middle ground, isn't there? Like, you're either into it, costs you a bomb, you get out of it what you got into it for, so you lose your bomb, or the car has appreciated in value. So
there's the way I look at buying. If I was to buy a high performance sports car now, I'd go through some routines.
Let's hear them.
So the very first one is that it's got to be about 8 to 10 years old. It's got to have been a true supercar. We're talking $250,000, $300,000 supercar.
Let's just stop there for a second.
Ooh.
We're in 2021. Mm-hmm. So 2010 to 2013 we're talking here,
let's talk about 2007, 2008, let's say.
Sure, okay.
So here's a great example.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So the lovely Ken that we know very well, who can't stop buying cars, about 12 months ago... We will get him on.
By the way, we're going to get Ken on to
he's
podcast.
Great, yeah. And so he said to me, look at this 2007 model Mercedes-Benz AMG 5-litre, 2-door, pillarless SL car. And I went, you know what? This is a good-looking Merc, because not all Mercs are good-looking cars.
Look, and as an SL, you just don't know how old it is, do you?
Yeah.
If you look at an SL parked in anywhere on the side of the street, it could be 3 years old or it could be 25 years old.
Generally, the model runs along.
Yep.
And they're
timeless designs,
tasteful,
and subtle.
And so it had the fins, it had the air vents on the side, the fins on the bonnet, great big long bonnet, just a good looking car, full stop. Anyone would appreciate it. And I said, Ken, how much do you want for it? This is classic Cars and Coffee. It's busy time, so there's not a lot of chat, right? Quick. And he goes, well, he said, 42, but I'll sell it for you for 33. This is very nice of you. And he said, but
what you say? I'll give you 25.
I just said, tell me about the car, right? And he said, well, it's done 105,000 kilometres, and it was $345,000 new. And I went, hang on a sec. So this was like in 2000.
1/10 of its value.
1/10 of its value, right? Wow. It was still a supercar. So I said, let's just do some numbers here really quickly. So how much fuel has it burnt? I guess
all of it.
It's easy. It's 12.4 litres per 100 kilometres it was burning, and it's done 100,000 kilometres. Well, that was a simple number. So it's $12,500 of fuel that is burnt. Okay. And then I said, what's its registration cost? Whatever, let's say it's $500 a year. So I kept on going through the numbers. No numbers meant anything One number was everything.
Depreciation.
$3 every kilometre that car drove was depreciation.
Yeah.
So that car now, that's probably 2 years ago or so, maybe a bit more. Sure. That car now might be worth a bit more. Because that car, if you were to buy that car, you bought a true supercar. It was a really impressive car and it cost, let's say, 35 grand. There's a good chance you can buy that car, play with it for 5 or 6 years and sell it for 55 grand.
Yeah.
That's why I say with sports cars, with classic cars, you try and look for that 60 to 70% depreciation curve. In the case of that, it was 90%.
Yeah.
And then buy the car, have a lot of fun with it and go, now I want my money back. And that's
precisely.
Okay, firstly, to disrupt your theory here, I don't think a Merc SL is a supercar.
What engine was in that? It's
a
the V12?
5-litre AMG.
Twin turbo, V8.
Twin turbo. Yeah, it was a hot rod.
Yeah.
Yep, so I see it as a boulevard cruiser. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
But at $340,000, it was a supercar.
Don't worry, it's supercar money.
That's right.
Here we are turning our nose up and go, yeah. 240 something, and you can get it for 33. I'm not so sure.
Yeah, but you know what? It's SLs, every era of SL, I think ages better than when it's modern. Like I look at SLs through the years.
Because they reach forward.
Yeah, it's a
reach forward as far as they can go.
Yeah, sure.
And put everything they can into the SL. So by the time the other cars are, there, the SL's already there.
Because like the replacement for the SL today is pretty much the AMG GT, right? Like whether you like them or dislike them because they're the world's, they're the modern E-Type.
Yes.
The world's biggest phallus on the road, right? But they're an amazing looking car, and I've no doubt that they're going to be, in years to come, people are going to go back and go, oh my goodness, this is the end of the great era of the V8 for Mercedes, because now the way things are going with Mercedes moving forward with the hybrid engines and electric and all this sort of stuff, the AMG GT is pretty much the end of the line, with high performance, big
a lot of, that
donks,
applies to a lot of petrol-powered cars at the moment.
That's the interesting thing. So the big car buyers, the big car collectors of the past were getting first of cars. Now look at that, they're getting the first of run of cars. Sure. They were getting these big romance, muscly cars or beautiful cars, first of run. Now, getting the last of run. Because what's happening now that's never been happening before is that there's an inevitability of electric cars coming. Guaranteed inevitability of electric cars. In which case, big, noisy, smelly, loud, outrageous, grunty V8s with big manual gearboxes.
Yes, please.
They're the car.
I think it's media hype. I don't think we'll get there. I think infrastructure issues, particularly here in Australia, lack of support from government, not incentives, but actual disincentives by government, knowing they're not going to get their fuel excise and looking at how they're going to actually tax electric car owners moving forward, which has been the case in Victoria now. I'm not necessarily convinced. I know the industry is heading that way very quickly, right? I don't think it's our end game. We've discussed this a couple of times on our podcast, and I don't necessarily think we'll get there.
It's probably hydrogen.
Look, common sense would make it hydrogen, right? But whether or not the industry will get behind it and invest in it like they have in electric, I do believe the answer will be a hybridisation.
Yeah, look, major manufacturers, and I consider Volvo as second tier manufacturer. Well, they've said they're not going to make any more petrol fuel driven cars. Everything's going to be electric by 2025, and Jaguar too. So whether our infrastructure is ready or not, we're going to be denied certain options in the marketplace.
There's no doubt that's going to be the case, right? But are they, like you said, no major vehicle manufacturer, global, has said this. None of them has said we will cease internal combustion engines by X date. Second tier ones have. Consistently, okay?
Yeah.
As a result, you've got things that are happening at the very top end of the market, like the news in the last week that Rimac has teamed up with Bugatti and Porsche to take over Bugatti to make the ultimate hypercars that'll ever be made, basically, right? So this means that their investment is purely electric in the ultra-luxury market, which it should be. Is there a market better than Rolls-Royce for electric cars? Probably not. That's like, silence. Yeah. You're in a cocoon, aren't you? It's the perfect car for it. You know?
Yeah, it is.
But when you think about the major manufacturers, I'm talking Daimler, Benz, I'm talking Volkswagen Group, I'm talking Ford, I'm talking General Motors, Toyota.
Yeah.
None of those companies are talking about, because they still service, and their major business is developing nations. And as long as Australia reduces that infrastructure investment, it means that we're all going to end up in cars designed for third world. As the electric car, thing takes off, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. It's going to be in our lifetime. For the three of us, it will
and
be.
Hopefully autonomous driving too.
That's exactly
because
right.
I'm a passionate driver, as you know. But
you'd love the idea of someone driving you, wouldn't you, to go to work? Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Read the newspaper.
I'm no interest in sitting in an amazing visceral manual gearbox car in a traffic jam. There's no joy in that. But on the other hand, that's the weekend car.
You do know, I'm going to backpedal and interrupt there. By being involved in that event, you actually are the traffic. You're not in it. Never.
Okay, so I've never caused a traffic jam.
No, I'm the one person that needs to get somewhere. Everyone else is stopping me.
Okay, so if it's like massaging our crystal balls,
can we?
The kind of where I'm going, I reckon the whole car ownership model will change. The enthusiast market will still exist.
Of course.
Service stations will be harder to find to get petrol out of. They'll still exist. There'll be people who still buy, petrol or hybrid cars. But I think there'll be a massive move towards car licensing, and the autonomous vehicle will just be sitting around the corner because somebody got out of it, and it won't have a driver. It'll just be waiting there for the next Uber message to come in and come and collect you, and it'll be cheap as chips, and nobody will be buying cars.
I don't agree.
You what?
That's okay.
I'll tell you why. If that was the case,
Yeah.
you would use a taxi.
That is a taxi.
I understand, but people continue to throw this concept out, right? Why don't you use a taxi or Uber instead of owning a car for your day-to-day?
Because you have to talk to the person in the front seat.
Yeah, okay, that's definitely a good point, right?
And if it's a taxi, it could be very smelly.
If you catch an Uber, you actually get the option on here. Do not want to talk.
Yeah, for me, I'll answer your question. For me, it's the immediacy of walking out of your door to get in a car.
Yeah, sure.
That's actually it. It's the availability within seconds of the option to have transport. But if these things are so ubiquitous, they're just
everywhere,
like four on the street waiting for you.
Exactly.
Sure.
It's the same deal.
It is.
And I reckon cars will come down to about half the size. They'll be the size of smart cars because the motors are now in the wheels. They don't need a bonnet and a dash.
You're making the assumption the electric thing takes over.
Certainly for that market.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing with the electric is there's a real hybrid. The hybrid is country and city. So in the city, you actually don't need the hybrid. The electric will do fine because you're only going to do small distances.
Yeah.
And if you're moving trucks around the place, you're probably going to have to use gas to get it around the place. So hydrogen is going to be what you're powering your trucks with to move long distances across the Nullarbor. But if you're moving around the city, electric's going to be a logical thing. The other thing you've got to consider is that the electric car has 10% of the amount of mechanics in it.
Yeah.
Parts at 10%. So once they've sorted out the battery costs, and that technology will keep evolving, getting better and better and better. Once it sorts that out, you won't be able to compete with a mechanical car. You won't be able to put it together for the same price as an electric car.
All this,
right now, they're expensive, but in the future, they'll become the cheap option.
I agree.
All this logic, right? Myself, first, I just want to go back a bit. I think people will continue to own their own car, even if it is autonomous, because they want their own space, their own comfort. They don't want to know someone else sat in it before they did these types of things. Right? That's what I think.
There'll be some people.
Yeah, I think that'll be the majority.
Some people.
Right? Purely because we've enjoyed that comfort for a long time.
We have. The next generation hasn't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's a whole, the millennials, they're just, actually, a lot of them are just not interested in cars. But here's the big thing.
I employ young people. I see it.
If you own a car and you take it to your place of employment, now you've got to have a parking spot for it.
Yeah.
So, cities are getting congested. So with the autonomous vehicle and the sort of the concept of car
you don't have four on the
leasing,
street. that four in the street and you just hit it.
Yep.
Yeah, they're still at a park.
Yeah, but they're constantly moving. You know, that whole theory about airlines only make money when their planes are in the sky. So when they're on the ground, they're losing money.
Sure.
So airlines work it out so that their planes are in the sky all the time. Well, it's the same with this.
Yeah.
So these cars won't be spending hours and hours and hours.
Yep.
At certain times, they'll be taken in at 2 a.m. and cleaned and what have you, and then they'll go back out at 6 a.m, waiting to be picked up in the hot spots.
Yeah.
And this is data. They're just operating off data.
Yeah. And very interestingly, though, our podcast's called Classic Prattle, and we're futuristic right now. How are we going?
Well, here we'll add this into it, and that is that as these cars become fully autonomous, and you're taking that to work every day, you've got a 2-car or 3-car garage if you're lucky, right? And you've got 1 car in it, possibly 2, 1 car in it, and it's classic and beautiful.
That's where I think it's going to go.
What you're going to work with every day, you don't care.
Yeah.
And it's paid for.
As long as it's comfortable.
Exactly. And you can work on it. And the interesting thing about that tech is that, of course, you're running the entire thing on a network. So they're inches from each other. They're all
You're
absorbing
100%
what's
right
around
about
it.
that, yeah.
They're absorbing constant amounts of data.
A human doesn't need to say
nothing.
when the light's green, everyone goes...
It knows when they're green,
exactly.
2 kilometres ahead, and
there probably wouldn't even be traffic lights as much.
And their insurance costs will be minimal.
Yeah.
And so our insurance costs, in fact, for the classic car will continue to rise because we're dangerous.
Now,
but the future, I think, Marc, is really good for classic cars. And I'm not talking 70 years, but certainly the next 25 years.
Yeah, for sure. On that point, though, COVID has certainly demonstrated to a lot of big business, if you work for a big corporate or something like that, you're not going to work like you used to.
No.
Precisely.
So it's actually leisure, recreation, shopping, these types of things that you're going to use these cars for, not necessarily for going for work, because the number of people that are actually going to work, like, don't get me wrong, there are always industries where people have to travel to go to work, right?
Yep.
If you're going to mow lawns for a living, you're not working from home. If your home opens to sell a house, you're not working from home,
Well, even that can be done online. I'm doing online auctions for properties where, I don't see the people. It's
perfect.
Yeah, it's a new world.
And in my case,
you're perfect for them.
And in my case, of course, because I run a fund, and the investors are all around the world, so I'm on Zoom all the time.
Sure.
So I'd speak to Switzerland and Singapore and Hong Kong. They're all where the investors are, and Australia.
Sure.
The other day, my accountant said to me, "Do you want to come in and meet in Subiaco, or do you do it by Zoom?" And I went, Zoom. Like, it was 20 minutes.
Put pants on. Put pants on.
Yeah. Same time both ways. So there is a certain degree, and of course, there's the human aspect of trying to become maintain your sanity, etc. But that has changed things. So the cars are getting used less and less. So I think there's a lot of that passion, like your beautiful old Yamaha motorcycle sitting over in the corner, Simon.
It hasn't run since 74.
I don't think it's run since 69.
Yeah.
But that sort of thing is the passion in the garage.
Sure,
that
it
you
is,
can potter around and play with it.
Yeah,
and it's more important now than it's ever been before.
Yeah.
Now, Simon, traditionally, what are you drinking?
Oh, okay, so I'm drinking, it's my old favourite. I'm still waiting for the sponsorship deal to come through.
Burley Big Head?
Burley Big Head, no-carb lager. It is delicious and nutritious.
Running with Thieves, XPA, Running with Thieves, Fremantle Brewery on South Street.
And
Check
Deryck,
it out.
You've just had a West Winds, West Australian gin maker.
Yes.
Won number 2 in the world in the Chicago show last year. Second best gin in the world. And that particular one was a gin and soda with basil and strawberry.
It was delicious.
Did you say second best gin in the world?
Well, that's what it was judged.
Yeah, okay. What else have we given Deryck the second best today, you reckon?
You?
Fair.
This seat? This uncomfortable seat.
What do we got going here on the desk?
Oh, that's okay. So this is a daggy old rag.
Hey,
and
I'm using the term desk very loosely here.
This
right?
is I fished this out of a dumpster.
Did you really?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's in stunning condition. Have you
No, that's just
how it came.
That's how it came. Got it out of a dumpster.
What's wrong with parents?
And I couldn't resist it as a sort of garage ornament.
Yeah, how could you?
And
I
might have been all over that.
For classic Prattle, it was a good thing. Hey, so let's get to the reason Deryck's with us
why
today.
is Deryck here?
And the invention of classic cars and coffee, which has gone ballistic in Perth. It really has.
Ooh, good fun.
So let's go back to the very early days. I remember rocking up at the City Beach car park. I think it was the first one or the second one in my XK
Second one.
150.
Yeah, that's right. It's good that you got that car
How did you get that far in an XK150?
It was an accident.
Is that its only trip?
No, it's only close.
For
the
people
only
who
trip.
don't live here, right? It's only about 6 k's away from here, right?
And where are they made? Oh no, don't.
Yeah, okay.
So
Can we have that discussion?
So that was fabulous. You started off down at the car park at the City Beach Surf Lifesaving Club.
Yeah.
And
Picture my garage and my car arriving at that event.
oh,
So that wasn't the first event. It's the first event that everyone knows about.
yes.
But the first event was back in the days when I and my partner Grace were social directors of the Porsche Club.
Indeed.
And we just turned around and said, let's do cars and coffee. And I said to the members of the Porsche Club, I said, a lot of you guys have got sneaky little special things in the garage that aren't a Porsche. Bring those. And so we didn't know what was going to happen. It was cold. It was May.
Where was it?
Up at City Beach in front of the restaurants there.
Sure.
And it was May and it was blizzardy cold. And we got 30 RSVPs, and I thought that's a good thing. We had 67 cars turned.
Amazing.
And so we had Morgans and we had
How did they get there?
another thing. Well, there's most of the
Trailers.
English car.
Oh, trailers.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's right. And so we had Ferrari Testarossas and E-Type Jag convertibles, Series 1s and 2s. So all these cars turned up. And we all went off and at the different places and got coffee from the different cafes.
Sure.
In other words, there was nothing organised. There was a car park. We didn't tell anyone about it. We dropped the cones out, bought the cars in,
Yep.
and of course everyone just had a great time and 2 hours passed. And I remembered at the time saying to Gracie, she always gets fright when I say these things, I said to Gracie, I think this has got legs.
Just
Why don't we
hold it
do
there.
this again?
Gracie is Deryck's fiancée.
She is indeed.
Like all of us, Deryck is also punching way above his weight.
Should be thrilled to know. And you're absolutely right. Anyway, so she very tolerantly said, oh yeah. And so off we went from there. And it was then I called up Paul Blank, who's been a friend of mine since 1987. I first met Paul.
He's hard to get rid of.
He is the classic car guru of WA. I think
unquestionably.
nobody could dispute that.
he
We will get
is.
him on.
He is.
We
Yeah.
will get him on.
Yeah.
So Paul's knowledge of cars is second to
Unsurpassed.
none in
Yeah.
Western Australia.
It is.
And not is it just his knowledge of cars, but he knows where those cars are and whose garages they're in.
At any moment in time, as a matter of fact.
So I called him up and said, Paul, why don't we do this thing called Cars and Coffee? Like, I didn't invent it, it's been going since the mid-'80s, actually, out of the US and the UK.
Yeah.
Always arguing
sounds
between
very
each
LA,
other
yep.
who actually first invented Cars and Coffee. But I said, it's got legs, and if we just turn around and put it out there, let's see what happens. And on the very first event, we had 150 classic cars turn up. And they weren't just average, they were impressive cars.
Yes.
Look, if you've got
150.
one, you're gagging to drive it and put it somewhere for everyone else to appreciate.
true.
Let's face it.
Yeah.
Simon is a victim for cars that are incredibly
I'm just a
reliable.
victim.
I've got my old car in the garage, and I love an excuse to get it out. I'm no different than every other classic car owner.
True.
Yeah.
And of course, what we learned over the years of doing events with the Porsche Club is that events that are short, fun, and social work. If you want to keep the Porsche Club in from 11 o'clock past 3 o'clock in the afternoon,
Forget it.
razor wire.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Razor wire. Otherwise,
Maybe.
they're just
Maybe,
going to go.
otherwise I drive through it.
They'll go. So in other words, it's this short burst
2
where everyone
hours,
can
3
just
hours.
turn up, enjoy themselves, and go. So anyway, we did that at what do we got there?
Something beeped us.
Is that a
Keep
battery?
keep running with it.
So we did that and the nice people at Cambridge charged us $80 a go at the car park, which was totally okay, and they were really nice. But they said summer's coming, not winter's coming, summer's coming, and that car park in summer on a Sunday morning is packed.
Yeah.
And we realised we had to go somewhere.
This is on the ocean front, by the way. If you're
it is a fantastic spot. I've actually done a few YouTube videos in that car park.
Yeah.
Right.
With Ken.
There you go.
Yeah.
So great car park and right next to the beach, etc. So and a bit broken up by trees and things, which is what it's all about, right? But the thing about classic cars and coffee is you can't put them on grass because you have to park them, and the cars and coffee thing, it really is this kind of perfect formula. You go in there and park anywhere you want. Next to friends, not next to friends, alone with the other varieties, away from them. It doesn't matter. You need a spot to park into. You don't want anyone telling you where you've got to park. And so all of that meant that we needed to find a car park. And shopping centre car parks generally are a bit ugly. And so we went into the Perth City Council and we started hunting. This is after our third event out there.
Sure.
And we knew that 150 to 200 cars would turn up every event. So we thought, okay, so we've got to find a real spot, a home for it, And so we spoke to the Perth City Council and we said, in East Perth there, next to the cricket ground, there's a car park that fits about 1,000 cars. It's huge, right? And on Sunday morning...
As long as your handbrake works.
Yeah, it's steep, yeah. And on Sunday morning, there's not a car there. Not a car there. Nothing. From 7:30 until 11
Isn't
o'clock.
Isn't that ticketed parking? I used to live in East Perth.
It's ticketed parking.
It is ticketed, isn't it?
And so they said, yes, you could do that. And I said, can you give me some idea of cost? And they said, about $20,000 a go.
Yeah. They'd probably take cash.
And I just said to them, I gasped for air a bit, and then I said, you're not as competitive as Cambridge. They were offering it for $80.
Did you really? Is that what you said to them? That's classic. What was the response?
I was so angry with them. In fact, I went straight to the mayor not long after that, which was Lisa Scafidi at the time, and I said, Lisa, can you believe this? This is what they've said. Yeah. And she said, we'll put you on the grassed area along Riverside Drive there. We'll put you there for free. And I said, well, that's very nice, but we don't want a grassed area. We want a car park, and that one's not used. So it was interesting, because what had happened is that the car parks operate as a business. You can't touch it.
I'm going to tell you.
Wow.
I'm glad you didn't go there, because I reckon it's a shit-house location.
It's not as good, is it?
No, it's not
as good. So we did some very cunning driving around using a mouse from the air. And we looked constantly on Google to discover that the University of Western Australia has some great car parks. And we approached UWA events section, and they said the University of Western Australia has a large asset, which is its grounds, and we want to share that with people, with the community on the weekend. And we said, bingo, we're the community. And it's been wonderful ever since. It's been
fantastic.
A lovely marriage,
Yeah. I'm of the opinion that it is the perfect venue with the trees and the intimacy of the buildings, the sandstone buildings all around it, and the river, proximity to the river, etc.
Yes.
But that intimacy of having the two roads and the car parks either side, I've always felt that one of the best things that Classic Cars and Coffee offered was this great gift for, and I'm going to say men in particular, mental health.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of guys there, that's their main social function.
Yes.
They're so, into their cars, so nerdy, they don't have lives almost externally from this. So it's a massive part of their lives. And I see those people getting there early. I see them nattering away with everybody, so that's got to be a good thing. And I think it's one of the best things that has come along for men's mental health in ages, particularly in Perth.
Particularly for men of a generation. Oh. Because most Classic Cars and Coffee participants, they're too young to go to places like men's sheds. We don't. We don't have the avenue.
Definitely.
And I'm a dad, right? I don't do what my dad did. I don't get home and say to the wife, I'm going down the pub for the next couple of hours.
Yeah,
I'll be home later. That doesn't happen now. You know what I mean? Yeah. For us to get guys to crap on about who kicked what goal or who should have at the footy. You know what I mean? And Classic Cars and Coffee, you'll get a sympathetic ear regardless of your personality type, interest in particular vehicles, etc.
There's a commonality.
Yeah, sure.
They're all there.
We've brought this up in Classic Prattle before in our podcast, that it is a home for just guys to crap onto each other.
Look, it is. We actually know the demographics really well because we can see it through Facebook. So when we...
But to be about that wide...
No, it's not. It's not. You'd be surprised. So when we have to cancel an event for some reason, COVID particularly, all of a sudden it's like mass communication. So out it goes on email, out it goes on, and we get 1 in 10 still turn up. So we know that we can communicate with 90% of everybody that comes along. Yeah. Okay. So number one. Number two is that then we look at the website. The website's history. Everyone talks about building it. No, it's history. We put photographs up there for history.
Sure.
All the activity is on Instagram and Facebook.
Sure.
Instagram's going ballistic, by the way, just like thousands of people going onto it. And they, of course, take their own photographs and generate their own interest, which is great. Yeah. So when we look at Facebook, we know that the guys are mostly between sort of 35 and 55 years of age. But there's still plenty in there 25 to 35. We know that they're definitely skewed to men, but these are the guys looking. Yeah. Guess who's sitting in the seat next to them when they come? Often their wives and their kids. Like your gorgeous daughter and wife comes along. And so when you look around Classic Cars and Coffee, it ain't a men's gig only.
It's not a boys' club.
There's a great lot of families there, which is really lovely. Now, that doesn't take away from what you said. That's absolutely the case. Guys can get around. What I see is they'll turn up in their cars. Most of them will lock it, or not even lock it, and just walk away. Yeah. And they're straight up to get a coffee, and they yarn and they wander around the place with friends.
It's like this. Sorry, what are the because it's an outrageous success. Congratulations to you and Paul.
Thank you.
And Grace.
Yes, exactly.
But what sort of numbers are they attracting now?
So
I know December's your big one.
It depends on the...
New Year's Eve is the...
Yes. It's so funny, because Paul Blank and I sat down in November, because every month we catch up at a cafe beforehand and say, how's it going? It's growing organically, but we tweak it all over the place to make sure it keeps growing, And I remember in 2017 going, it's holidays, everyone's away. Do you think anyone's going to turn up? Truly. We wondered whether anyone would turn up. And we had
I saw the mushroom cloud from my place.
That's right.
And we had our base number of guys there, helpers there, which was probably 6, etc. And on the first year, 600 cars turned up. And it was a 1.5 kilometre bank up down Stirling Highway to come in.
Fabulous.
And we were moving people as fast as we could without being rude. And we opened up extra entries and we had extra people just saying, here, direct them into here, wear this yellow top. And so we discovered that was the giant event. And now that's hitting about 750, 800 cars.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's amazing when you consider the car type. So a lot of people turn around and go, exactly what is the genre of cars? Well, look, we can tell you pretty simply, but at the end of the day, it's a bit subjective too. So it's simply absolutely anything pre-1980, unmodified and unmolested, right?
Get into and go now. Go. Talk about McLaren. Go.
No, hang on. Absolutely. So then exotics, which is the McLarens and the Ferraris and the Porsches, and then Europeans, because Europeans, the car outlets, these sort of they don't have a place to go. So then we turn around and say, but it's not really Japanese. But it is, because we've got MX-5s that come along, we've got GTRs that come along, we've got MR2s. Why are those cars there? Because they're a clubbish sports car. So what's not there? Well, the Mitsubishis aren't there, and the WRXs aren't there. Yeah. They're awesome cars. There's just a lot of them.
What about, that's an interesting point, but the bone of contention we've had consistently on Classic Prattle is some of the cars that we inherently don't believe belong at Classic Cars and Coffee. Right? Yeah. Not our call, it's not our event, but we're verbally critical of it, right? But, you say Mitsubishi, if you saw a Starion...
So if it was mid-80s Starion, it'd be there.
Love it.
Yeah, mid-80s Starion, it'd be there.
Cordia Turbo, mate, all over it. Absolutely. I saw one on the road the other day, by the way, Cordia Turbo.
And that's not rusted.
Well, no, my wife Cordia goes, is that a Cordia? It is a Cordia.
She's a keeper. She's a keeper if she knew that.
Look, don't worry, I will.
Yeah, that's right.
You think I'll let that go? It's not because of the Cordia, just so you know, right?
So at the end of the day, there's also a huge event called Custom Cars and Coffee.
I know it.
Right? Yeah. And Custom Cars and Coffee are
heavily modified muscle car event, it's a general rule.
Very muscly, 1,000 horsepower Japanese cars and anything that's kind of a Holden Commodore
or LS powered things.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, don't get me wrong, it's very exciting. Right?
It's great. But that tribe's different to this tribe.
Of course it is.
And that's all it is.
Yeah. And you know what? When I go to those events, because I go to Custom Cars and Coffee occasionally, and Classic Cars and Coffee, the difference is about 14 years of the vehicle owner on average.
Oh, age-wise?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the 14 is a throwaway number, but when I look at them, I go, you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
It's a younger demographic.
It is, and it's...
Yeah.
If you think about yourself that long ago, your interest is in one camp as opposed to the other as well.
Yeah.
Not for you. You're just in that case.
Automotive
Poppy cars.
So the outcome then is that.
Tell us why Teslas are there.
Is that because
they shouldn't be.
It's still unique.
No, it's not.
It's an unusual car. Not many of them are around.
Mate, that was 10 years ago. They're unusual.
I reckon they get in by accident.
Yeah, look, by the time they lift up their gold wing doors, people are still hanging around and looking at it because they're trying to work out. But there'll come a time when it will no longer be there.
Yeah.
Next week, hopefully.
And maybe so.
Look, the truth is, it is a outrageous success.
It is.
It's a
an
great
amazing
event.
And it's a credit to both you and Paul for
it. Offers a public service just by being there. It's loved. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. And it's a bundle of fun.
Yeah, and you make money for charity.
We do. And so Prostate Cancer Foundation Australia, no-brainer, of course, because we're talking, that age and demographics for men.
Yeah, for men. That's right.
Your nuts tight.
And we try and tell everybody that they need to get checks and things like that, and people are very happy to donate to it.
Yeah.
But Simon, what you said is just so true. The mental health aspect of it, we love. And so if you've come many, many times, of course, but for those listeners, when you come to Classic Cars and Coffee, the bloke at the front door, normally Chris, will turn around and go, "Ugh," like, "Yep, you're in," right?
Yep.
So he's the guy. Like, he'll stand in front of
the door.
He's the filter.
He's the door bitch, And so he'll stand in front of the car if he thinks it's not the right one. And they'll stop in front of it in the middle of the roundabout and he'll go, like that. It's quite amusing in one way to watch.
He wields quite a lot of power.
He does.
Well,
but once
the
they're
guy's
in,
human real estate. He can
will
do it.
Smile and wave. The next person, Marc McGovern, will meet him halfway and split the cars. He will smile and wave. As they arrive up to where they donate the money, someone greets them, sometimes me, sometimes Paul. I will smile and say hello to them, say it's great to see them again. As they move down the road, one other person, by the time they're in, 5 people would have said hello, smiled and acknowledged their car and smiled, etc. That's not by accident. That's because it's a fun community. And that's what we try to create when we do it.
With the charity side of it, if I could make a suggestion, in an effort to expand...
You've opened a charity? Is that where this is going?
No, to expand the focus and everything that goes on, and take into consideration, like you said, the wives, the kids, that sort of thing. I think there would be some merit in looking at women-specific charities, such as whether it's a breast cancer or ovarian cancer, and maybe it could just be on when it is the breast cancer week, or if it could be the ovarian cancer or juvenile cancer issues or telethon or whatever it is, to suit the events that are on trend for that particular time. Might be worth some consideration.
Tough, Mark, and here's the reason.
Let's hear it.
We would get approached virtually every month by a charity.
Yeah, okay.
Every month. Even though they know.
So I can stay charity and actually have a go.
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't, actually. With the bald head and
And so, mate, I've had chemo for 45 years.
The love guru.
And so what comes of that is confusion.
Yeah, sure.
And so we're pretty clear. While we have Prostate Cancer Foundation as our charity, that's what we're about.
Yeah, okay, good.
So we're very community minded. So by example, this coming 25th of July, Alex Forrest will be there, and he's written a great book called Idle Talk. And Alex Forrest was the West Australian newspaper motor section writer for 19 years.
Yeah.
And so he knows
Volvo driver,
everything.
I might point out.
And quirky as can be, which would be the reason.
Yeah, he's a great, lovely man.
Has he been relegated? Because I haven't seen his...
So he's written a book called Idle Talk, and that's just released.
Which I used to consistently look at in the Saturday West.
Oh, in the Saturday West, yeah. And so that will be... So he'll be there with a table and Free Metal Press, or whoever they are, I think, supporting him. We just do that immediately. That just happens all the time, because that's part of community. Like you turning up the other day with hundreds of fantastic magazines that were given away to you.
Yeah.
And we sold them all for the charity for like $10 a box,
Yeah.
So we want to keep that going, that kind of community thing. One day I'd like to think that we might have, one weekend a year, which is just basically people bringing their old tools and bits and pieces along and laying them out.
Swap meet.
Just one weekend a year is swap, and they can come along and sell their stuff. Because that's part of community thing.
Yeah. If anyone can hear this, it's pissing down rain outside right on Simon's roof. It might be in the background. I'm not too sure.
In Australia, we have cast iron roofs, tin roofs, and this is the sound of rain on a tin roof.
I have it at my place too.
Yeah, it's supposed to be romantic, but
yeah,
I'm counting on it not being tonight.
Now, we've spoken about Classic Cars and Coffee and the event and everything it stands for, which we're both very big fans of because we talk about it pretty much every podcast, the event.
Well, the cars you see there would be what you probably chat about.
Yeah, just the event in general, you know, the fact that it is held, so it is a focus point for what our topic of the podcast is.
Hey, talk about a couple of people. We won't mention names, but we'll talk about personality types and a few things like that just for fun, right? So
we're going to slag off.
So sounds like a piss take. Yeah, let's go.
So we see. This is just an observation, right?
Yeah, good.
So
this is going to be good. Yeah.
We see the guys arrive in their E-Type Jags or their Austin Healey 3000,
sure.
Right? And they'll come in at sort of 7:30, 7:45.
What time does the event normally start?
Oh, so it's meant to be 8:30 to 10:30.
Yeah, okay.
During summer,
It's
right?
so English.
And so in summer, the first car arrives at about 7:05. And by 8:30 in summer,
does that shit you?
It's full.
As an organiser?
No, we just know it's going to happen.
Okay.
So we can't do anything about it. So when they arrive at 8:45, everyone's a bit annoyed that they can't find a parking spot because it's full, you know?
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to get there in summer early and enjoy it. So in come the Jaguars, in come the classic old cars, etc. They come in, they park up, and they put their deck chairs out next to it, and they take their own cup of tea off. So they've got their thermos with a cup of tea. We've got 4 coffee vans there.
Classic cars and
top
tea.
of the range coffee, and they've got this with a cup of tea, which is lovely, right? And they'll all gather together and chat. Personality type 1, right?
Yeah.
And then along you come, the next personality type you'll get. Let's say, let's jump a bit. You'll get the Porsche Club arriving, or the Porsche owners, right? And they still will arrive at about 8 o'clock because they want to be in. And so they'll arrive very much nearly always, they'll all park next to each other. And they'll do their best to park nearby.
Yeah, all the Porsches tend to be parked together.
Parked together. They do.
If they're club members, if they're not club members though, they tend to park a long way away as possible from them.
And I always give them the chance. I say, look, by the way, they're all over there today. It's up to you. Park wherever you want, right? And so those guys will turn up. They're really pleased to see each other. There'll be a bit of chat going on. Sure. And then they're off. And they're off having coffee and roaming around the place. And they'll go at the sort of 10 minutes before the, in theory, finishing time, right? So then you've got, let's say, the Bentley owners, and they'll turn up a little bit later, and they'll settle in, there's new Bentleys, and they'll settle in, they'll want a pretty good parking spot, and they'll stay, and they'll be gone by 10, right? And then you've got the Ferrari owners. And they'll turn up at like 9:30, but you've got a spot for me, right? Because I got a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and more often than not, I'm going, no, mate, I don't. You know, like the place is full. Or you're going to have to park up on the footpath here, etc.
And more importantly, do you understand how much you're depreciating this car by driving 7 kilometres to get it?
That's harsh. But
anyway,
we love Ferraris, and we get lots of them turn up. And so they very often park with other hyper or supercars.
Sure.
Yeah.
And of course the crowd goes crazy, and it's a lovely thing.
Especially the kids.
But they'll want to go before 10 because that's about how long, you know.
That's right.
Right.
ADHD.
Okay, so here comes the group that I love the most. They're my faves, right? The Lamborghini owners. So they're coming down the street. We can hear them about 2 kilometres away, and they're in second gear.
As they're coming off the narrows.
In the narrows, they're in third gear. But if they come off the freeway, they're still in second gear. The entire all the way down, and they arrive in, and they park up and all the way, and it's like wom till they park, right? And they'll park up with each other, and that's really cool. And most of them know each other, etc. They'll be gone 45 minutes later.
That long?
Yeah, because that's about it.
That's right.
They'll have to go to the next. And so these personalities are divided by cars, or these cars are divided by personalities. There are always exceptions to the rule.
Of course there is,
but generally...
But generalising, yeah, sure.
Would you agree with it?
I would. Look, I've noticed that about the Lamborghini owners for a car that basically has an ECU, so it's the engine's computer controlled. Why you'd have to blip your throttle when a car's computer controlled just to reverse into a parking bay. But I kind of go, I kind of like the sound of that. But
sounds gorgeous.
Look, you need to go back further than this. Why do you buy a Lamborghini? And that will answer the blipping of the throttle.
Look,
okay?
I don't think, in many ways, it's not a fair answer because there's a whole of reasons, right? And the reason why is that why would you buy an old classic Volvo like this? Because, it's old and it requires a lot of maintenance, etc., etc. There's a charm that people have, and there's something that
charm and Lamborghinis don't go together.
But there's an obsession with their case, and they want to have that. I think
Lambos are the ultimate, even more so than Ferraris, are the ultimate attention-seeking supercar.
Well, there's when the Rat
Mate, the
Pack...
doors go up.
Is this where you say put a comment underneath?
No. Why would you? Everyone knows it for fact. Why do you buy a Lambo? To slip in under the radar? I don't think so.
No, of course not.
They only come in colours that look like a packet of Skittles.
when they made...
No one orders a grey Lamborghini, do they? You know what I mean?
No.
When they made the first one, the 350 and the 400, then I think, I'm thinking 1967, 68. Sure. Okay. And the Rat Pack all bought them. Dean Martin bought one, Frank Sinatra, I think Sammy Davis bought one. Anyway, and Frank Sinatra is credited with saying that, you buy a Ferrari, you want to be someone. You buy a Lamborghini, you are someone.
That's a great statement.
What a great line, eh?
But of course, the fact is that Lamborghini chose to build a car to compete with Ferrari.
That's right.
Because he was annoyed with Ferrari.
That's exactly
And so
exactly
he thought, bugger you, I'm going to make a bigger wing, more outrageous and louder.
Yeah.
And so the Testarossa and the Countach were just show-off cars.
Oh.
And I've tried to sit in a Countach. I remember actually going to seriously buy one in 1994.
Have you actually ever driven one? Have you driven a Countach?
No, I've never driven
Have you ever driven a Countach?
I couldn't get it out. I couldn't fit in it. My neck was kinked. I've
driven two of them, right?
Okay.
Awful?
Excruciatingly awful.
Yeah.
Right?
Are they bad as a Land Rover 90 Defender? That's what I ask.
Poster car for me growing up.
Yes.
I'm at that age.
Yeah,
I did literally have a Countach on the wall, right?
Yes.
And
iconic.
I think I've been in the fortunate position through previous employment to have driven most of my dream cars through the years, right? And very few of them disappointed me more than
he was a bellhop at Burswood.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. A valet. Cool.
Interesting you say that, right?
Instrument fitter.
Interesting you say that because I did actually work for Warren Mead doing valet parking down when he had the restaurant down on Leighton. So I did actually park some nice cars back then, but doing the instrument work and then all the rally work and the resto work, I got to drive some nice cars, but very few cars let me down as much as the Countach did.
Oh, yeah.
At a
no
whole
one's ever
different
said
level.
they're a great car to drive.
Oh, look, but in saying that, would I own one? Like that. They've just gone too far the other way now, and
I know why people buy them, but I still wouldn't own one.
And it's iconic.
Yeah.
It's so iconic.
No question.
What sports car of the last 50 years, there's probably 3 that'd be more, but very few that when you say, and when you think about it, it's not even a race car.
No.
Lambo's never gone out racing.
No.
Think all the other brands are race cars, aren't they?
Yeah.
Ferrari,
Indeed.
Porsche, Aston Martin. You name all these iconic cars, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Lambo's never gone racing.
On a list of desirability,
Yeah.
they're kind of they don't rank in the top 10 for me. I can your massive engine, stunning looking, iconic, timestamp history, all of that stuff. I go, yeah. I still don't want one.
Yeah, cool.
There's many things.
It's okay. There are plenty of other people that are wrong too.
Well, actually, not that many.
But the reason to buy a Countach, I think, is art. Now, if I was to buy
that's a great way to
an
describe it.
installation of art, I would buy the 1931 Cadillac Fleetwood V12.
Yeah, okay.
Turns up.
Worthwhile.
Oh, yeah.
Just every inch of that car is just worth a photograph. It's just so exquisitely beautiful.
Yeah, I agree.
And you want it up on a Plymouth and turning around.
Well, we've spoken about this in previous podcasts before in general. What are the cars that are just?
Well, in terms of detail, those Toyota Centuries.
It's a V16.
Are they in the Cadillac?
It's a V16.
Yes, V16.
Yeah.
No one's ever accused a Toyota Century of being pretty.
No, but there's been some of those Toyota V12 5-litre Toyota Centuries turning
the limousine car.
Yeah.
And if you look at the detail on those, I'm kind of going, wow, they're in another league, better than Mercedes and top-end BM stuff.
In the scheme of things,
beautiful,
pretty cheap.
Oh, very cheap.
Yeah.
For what you get, there's a I did YouTube video that's yet to be published of a guy out in Maddington that's fitting one of those to a Supra. What the motor out of one of
The
those.
V12, the 5 litre V12.
Big thing, yeah.
Right.
You know, and so he imported the motor out of Japan, and he's had to custom make intakes.
Oh, it'd be
exhausts and all
yeah,
this.
yeah.
But my goodness, the thing, you've got to see
So
it.
how much are those limos worth? Could you talk about them? Because one of the gentlemen had one for sale.
Jeff Ash has just brought in a couple.
He's just bought it, okay.
Yeah, I don't know what he's looking for them. I don't know.
Because they're typical Japanese under the radar cars.
Well, so
aren't
it's not Mercedes V12 money.
Yeah.
They're lower than that.
Oh, much more.
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
thinking 30 grand or so to speak. They're ministerial cars. That's
Yes.
what they are.
Yeah.
They're
No
for-
leather. Because they believe they don't leather
Yeah.
because the Japanese believe the velour is more comfortable.
Yeah, and it doesn't make your pants shiny.
No.
Your suits.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And
Isn't that beautiful?
if you're in the back seat, right, in the passenger seat, the midsection here of the seat, right?
Yeah.
That folds back. So the person in the back can put their legs all the way through to the front seat to relax and put their feet up and the things. You've got to see them; they're just amazing.
They are.
That'd be
Amazing
very
cars.
Japanese. 'cause,
Yeah.
Oh, it is so Japanese.
they've got
you
the
know?
little socks with the toe.
Yeah.
And they take their shoes off everywhere. And,
Yeah.
lovely.
See, they're the sort of. It's great when you see someone with a car like that because if they've got two or three others, let's say, particularly, because to me it means they're quirky. It means they've collected something that's unusual and odd.
That's it for me. I love that. I'll walk past the supercar row and go, oh. And then I'll see something like a British Ford or a bloody, an NSU Prinz. I think, oh, look at that,
Yeah.
and off I go, or a Tatra.
Yeah, or a Tetra, exactly.
Or in a bath or something. It's just,
Oh, yes.
goodness, what is going on here? Where did this thing come from? Anything with a Zagato badge on it, I'm all over.
Oh,
I don't care.
yeah.
I don't care what brand it is.
There's a little Fiat 125S rally that turns up, and I did a Classic Cars with Simon interview with the guy. That was exquisite. He'd done such a beautiful restoration of it, and that green X19 that turns
great
up.
car, yes.
Oh,
But I
man.
tell you that the Honda S800s that are there, the Honda S800 convertible
Yes.
that is there, is just a little piece of art.
They
too.
never came.
they
They
are.
never came in hardtop, so they're all convertible.
No,
No, they did.
Did they?
Yeah, they came to a fastback.
My brother
I've
used
never
to
seen
own
it.
one.
I've never heard of a fastback.
So we had a
Fastbacks.
600, an 800, and an 800 coupe, and then a
Really?
1300, which was a different body shape.
And it really
Someone's
good
got
to
problem
get
with
two in one
displacement in your
bag.
family.
So 800 cc's, 13,000 RPM peak, 11,000 RPM, but it went to 13.
Roller bearing crank.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing
Just a
stuff.
It lasts about
Lovely
15 minutes, I reckon.
Well, that's the reason they're particularly collector's items, because not many of them survived,
Well,
That's it.
interestingly, the Porsche 356, I know a little bit about them, came with a roller bearing
No.
engine, right, for a period of time. In fact, she pretty much had the dick of replacing engines
Right.
when we were replacement journal. Oh, the roller bearings were actually in the conrods,
Okay.
not in the main bearings.
Okay, and then you
Right.
press the crank together?
Yep.
Okay.
The crank was all, built, you know what I mean? So, so they're hot, they're complete, the conrod big ends were all a complete slide-on unit with roller bearings in them. And that was a 1300 and 1500 as well.
Wow.
And the Carrera, some of the Carrera engines also, quad cam ones also came with a roller bearing,
Yeah.
big end, and it's, the amount, if you find an original roller bearing 356 motor, like,
Yeah.
as
Well, do you
bad-
know there was one abandoned out on the Nullarbor? You know that story of the 356 Carrera that caught a light going across the Nullarbor?
I haven't heard about this.
Oh, it's well known in
It sounds like a
Porsche
Urban
circles.
myth.
urban myth.
This is so urban myth. We're running with it. Look, I'll believe you. Don't worry.
It was actually owned by James Dean's brother.
Yeah,
That was his mother.
Jim Dean.
I actually bought the ID plate for that car.
No.
And sent it to Terry Healy in northern New South Wales, and then they built basically a replica of it, a recreation of that car.
Sure.
But it caught a light. Another mate of mine, Frank Vanderworm, who's been around the Healy Club forever, and classic car enthusiast and raced classic cars and stuff. He and a couple of other guys drove out. I think it was in Norseman, one of the roadhouses, and it was out the back of that. And kids had jumped on the roof, and it was in very sad state. But at that stage, the motor was there, pretty melted. But it was possible to get the ID plate on it, And I went up to Caversham, where a guy owned it, and I paid over the money and then sent it across to my mate Terry Healy of Old Timer Garage.
Right, what year did you do that?
I probably did that 15, 16 years ago.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
Because it's legitimate.
Yeah.
You know?
There's nothing legitimate about selling an ID plate out of a car.
Well, the rest of it was...
there'd be other bits.
Look, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If you're a real estate agent, it's tough, of course.
That's harsh. I
I don't understand.
I'll tell you an ID plate
I
story.
don't understand where he's getting. Anyway, moving right along.
I once visited R.S. Williams in the UK. R.S. Williams, I think it is R.S. Williams, in the UK, and they are.
Is that different to R.M. Williams here in Australia?
Because essentially what they are is they're Aston Martin repairers and aftermarket. So
Okay.
I walked in there
Very
and
busy.
there was a genuine Zagato in there, you know. So and as I roamed through the place, there were photographs of Elle Macpherson and her DBS convertible, and I used to have an Oscar India Vantage many years ago, 1979 Fliptail. There were 3 Vantages, Oscar India Vantages in there, and they made 214. So this was a great spot. And I was extremely excited. Becky took me to it, you see, my then girlfriend. And I was extremely excited about in there. And I looked at this car and went, oh my God, is that a DBR1? And he said, yeah, it's a DBR1.
Really?
And I said, wow. And I said, what's it worth? Now, this is, how long ago was that? 10 years
2010 we were in the UK.
Okay, so...
Deryck and I went to Festival of Speed together.
Festival of
It
Speed.
was on last week.
Yeah.
And-
We'll come back to that in a minute.
And so I said then, that many, I said, what would it be worth, possibly? And he goes, £10 million.
How much you got?
Yeah. and that was many years ago, £10 million pounds, so now a lot more.
Yes, it's probably 11.
And I said, so what does he do with it? He races it.
Yeah.
And I went, okay.
Of course he does.
He races it, like as in full-on outright racing. And I went, it's £10 million. He said, yes, but if you bingle the corner, and he said, we can fix that for £30,000. And all of a sudden I started to realise you've got to absolutely decimate the car to lose the £10 million.
You see those guys
because
racing
the value of it
Daytonas
is in the
250
ID plate.
Yeah, you see those guys racing those 250 GDOs in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 19 of them on the grid, right?
Yeah.
You're going, what are these guys doing? These are $100 million cars, you know?
Yep.
But exactly
they're
that point,
fixable.
what do they cost to fix?
Yeah. What do they cost?
Lunch
to fix?
money compared to their value.
Well, in compared to the value of the wealth of the people, exactly.
Exactly.
So
Yes,
that whole plate that you talked about there, that ID plate, that VIN number is so much of what it was. I mean, look at
Yeah, but that VIN number is
Peter
only...
Briggs's car, the Bentley.
Oh, the Le Mans car.
Le Mans car. That's the Le Mans car. The Le Mans car chassis and engine.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
You take those VIN plates off their original home, they're not worth as much as what they were when they were at home.
Well, sometimes you've got a choice and sometimes you don't have a choice.
100% accept that.
And
Yeah, I
so,
agree with
you
that
go,
concept, right?
Yeah, but it's the thing lives even in terms of a recreation. I'm
Look, if
still
you're
pro
gonna,
that.
if
Me
the,
too.
No, if the person who is buying the VIN plate will never sell the car under the impression that it is original, I'm okay with it.
This goes back to the 80s when there was two...
About 7,000 GT Falcons?
No. Okay. There were 2 Type 35B Bugattis rocking around the world with the same. Yeah. And one of them had part of the body, and the other one had a gearbox and a back axle, and the other one had the chassis and the engine.
And when you talk Type 35, you're talking serious quality, right?
My word. So you go, which is the actual car? I'm not sure. And it went to court.
Oh.
And I'm not sure where it rested, but it did go to a court case. Because you can imagine the millions of dollars involved in that. Yeah.
But providence and history is so much of what a car's worth. And I always remember Paul Blank telling me, he said there's a Maserati Merak wandering around Australia that used to be owned by the famous model Twiggy.
Yeah, sure.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it never was. But it goes with that car everywhere it goes. That was owned by Twiggy. When it was sold and resold, it was Twiggy's car. But it never was.
I did have Britt Eklund's Maserati Ghibli.
No.
I did.
Great cars.
Yep.
That's awesome.
It was a
Horrifying
1969
turbo.
model.
That's awesome.
No, this is
69.
69. This is a quad cam 4.7 litre, 4.9 litre V8.
Wow.
With
did you sing to it upstairs before the night's too old? Or?
well, no, hang on.
Can you now?
It was yellow with a purple interior, purple velour interior, and It was a really fabulous bit of kit.
What a colour combo.
I sold it to the head of the Atomic Energy Commission in Australia. No. And he did by all reports, I never saw the car again, but he did an awful restoration of it. And
wait. It was yellow with a purple interior and he did a horrible restoration of it.
Yeah. Look, anyway, so I had where I'm going with this is that I had the original license papers for it with the car. And there it was, Britt Marie Sellers.
And another car, there is a 911 SC in Queensland that has a sticker on it that says, vote for Sonny Bono on it. And it's his 911 that Sonny Bono owned. And that's a big part of the value of that car.
Sure.
Incredible. And for the life of that car, it's his first name in it and Sonny Bono owned it,
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
If you in the background, if you can hear some noise, my youngest child has just walked into the room to steal things from the beer fridge in the garage.
Your youngest child is 6'4".
Yes, and 100 kilos of rugby prop.
And he's just grabbed the largest choc milk that's ever existed.
That'll be gone. 5 minutes, that's gone.
Yeah. It's about 9 million calories.
That's right. Well, for him, nothing.
That only matters when you're our age.
That's right.
Hey, there is an event I'd like to do, and it's going to happen in March. And I've told no one else about it, but it's...
Well, we won't tell anyone either.
This is the stargazing night?
Oh, no, that's...
we're working towards.
Oh, good. That's with the Porsche Club, and we're going out to the desert. Yeah. It should be amazing.
I'm planning on driving the
45 Porsches out there in the desert.
I'm planning on driving the 356 all the way there.
Beautiful. Be good. Great car to do
What's your event?
So we've done one or two classic cars and coffees on the road, right?
Sure.
And we looked at this and realised that both times a lot of people turned up and wanted to do it. And basically, cars driving in convoy, having an enjoyable time. Mm-hmm. But in South Australia, there's the beach to Birdwood.
Bay to Birdwood.
Yeah. It's huge.
Yeah. One day for motorcycles, next day cars.
And not only that, 1 year for pre-19 something or others and 1 year for post. So 1,750 cars is their maximum capacity and they fill it each year. And so the great thing about that is the destination's lovely and etc. They're beautiful drive. Yeah. So we have made an arrangement with Nicola Estate Wineries, who is the old Hortons winery. We and they have an area of grass that can take 1,000 cars.
Really?
And they have another area that will take about 300 underneath the trees.
Fabulous.
So it'll be our inaugural event, one that I hope will outlast me. Yeah. That will happen on March the 23rd, I think it is, a Sunday. Yeah. And we'll start at Classic Cars and Coffee as if it's any other day. And the cost will still be $10. Yeah. And everyone will get in their cars and we'll take 250 cars up to a winery and there's music and displays, etc., like it expected to be. The beginning of what we hope to be a lovely annual event.
Fantastic. So wine and coffee, Classic Cars and Coffee to wine and cheese.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're coffee makers, by the way. Nicola own big coffee makers too, so they'll have coffee up there and things like
Uber
that.
Fabulous.
And Uber Home.
Yes.
Who's that?
Uber Home.
Uber Home. Yeah, no, wife home if possible, Yeah.
Fantastic. And now, Goodwood Festival Speed was on last weekend. I understand both you guys have been.
We've been to Festival Speed. I've been a couple of times. But I'd like to go to the race
revival.
The revival, yeah.
That appeals to me a lot more than the Festival Speed.
Well, let me tell you, they're both amazing.
Yeah,
I think in terms of car events, I've been to Pebble Beach in California, in Carmel, and there's a lot of car events that surround that in the whole county of.
On the peninsula out there.
Yeah, I've got the name of the area, but it's Monterey.
Carmel by the Sea.
Monterey.
Yep.
And so there's just endless. There's BMWs on the golf course and Mercs here and Porsche there, and it's just everywhere you look, it's just fantastic. My favourite event is
it's 5 minutes away from Laguna Seca.
That's right, which is on for 4 days while you're there. The historic meet is the Concours de Le Mans.
Yeah, okay.
Which is my very favourite event. Anyway, but right up there, going to the Festival of Speed it's the top of it's the right balance for me. There's stuff to look at, and there's cars moving, and they've got every type of every genre you can imagine of the car. It's just fabulous, and it's done beautifully.
I feel like the last couple of years, though, it's really turned into a super/hypercar event as opposed to a much broader range than it historically has been.
Well, that's the report you get here. But I think if you were there,
that's a good point. Yeah, you're right.
That year when we went, Alfa Romeo were the main Marc to be honoured.
Sure.
And so...
so every year there's a Marc to be honoured.
Yeah.
And they build an amazing statue.
That's right, the grand reveal.
The grand reveal in front of Lord Marsh's castle.
I was about to say, is it on a private property?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's
on 1,000 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
28 hectares, I think it is. 28 hectares.
It's just that section. But he owns 1,000 acres
Oh,
of the area, which includes the horse race course and
the aerodrome and
the aerodrome and
he's doing all right, isn't he? Really,
he's getting by.
Yeah,
imagine his race.
But imagine his race. But wouldn't you agree? There's something that is just unreplicatable in America. It's English. The people are very English.
Oh my word!
And the cars are approachable and touchable and within cooey and and the castle's there and you can wander up and into it and everything's very engaging and English. And we were particularly lucky because we had driver's tickets, but still everything's accessible.
You know, there was the Concours. I'm not sure if it was Sotheby's or Christie's that sponsored the Concours in front of Lord March's house, and there were those Alfa Romeos that had the Baroque sort of interiors, or the fabrics were woven, and the dashboards had fabric stuck on them that was Art Deco. And
what type of model Alphas were these?
6Cs and stuff like that.
Okay, sure.
But beautifully bodied things that are coach built. You know, probably 1920s cars.
Okay.
It'd be my take
stunning.
on it.
Yeah.
And breathtakingly beautiful. Through to the stuff in the 70s, like the cars mimicking the jet era.
Yes.
And like the Alfa Romeo, was it called the Boomerang? And all of those fabulous cars were there. But you could walk around, you could actually like open the doors and things and touch them.
You can't do that in America.
It was a bit inappropriate, but you could.
You could.
Yeah,
but
you could. Yeah.
Obviously, people were watching you, and you know if you went too far.
But when we're in the pits, which you can walk to and roam around the pits, you can speak to famous racing car drivers and see extraordinary cars.
Yeah.
And you know that's very hard to do that in a big American event.
Sure.
You know, it's just not
Well,
the
the experience that you and I had, I got to ride in Rainer Altonen's Mini Cooper S that won the Monte Carlo Rally.
Amazing.
And I mean, it's like, oh my God. And then I spent probably half an hour talking to Rainer Altonen, and it was like, I couldn't believe it. And then...
Neither could he.
Neither could he. He couldn't understand it. Anyway. Then I had afternoon tea with Sterling Moss. So we sat down and did. chat with Sterling Moss, which was truly fabulous.
It would have been, yeah.
And we got pretty friendly with Deryck Bell.
And we chatted with Deryck Bell and Pink Floyd.
And Nick Mason from Pink Floyd, the drummer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But the one that I'll always remember because of his generosity and his warmth was Win Percy. So I went up the hill with Win Percy in Mike Hawthorne's Mark I Jaguar replica, and it had hand controls. And he told this great story that Jaguar had built this for him to use at the event, and Jaguar had all these hand controls, and they were just crappy and didn't work properly, and he's still, he's only got use of his body from hips up.
Bad operation. Not
bad operation. No, exactly.
Yeah, of all that time.
He said, it was a little crappy. He said, then I got these Australian guys, I think it was HSV, and they sorted it all out. And he said, bloody, I love Australian engineers. And it was like really good. So then we raced up the hill, and that was fantastic. And then sat up the hill, and I just talked to him for probably half an hour in the car, and we were trying to figure out what engine was in some sort of prototype thing, and we just dribbled on for hours and hours and hours. And then I got to go back down the hill with him, and all this time, and then we got to the pits, and we drove into the pits, and he gets under his carport, and then instantaneously a queue appears at his door of his minders, and people wanted to help him get out, and then basically, he had appointments and things to do.
Yeah, sure.
So he went, like we were talking about the year that he won Bathurst with the Tom Walkinshaw VL Commodores. And was it VL or VNs? Anyway, somebody will tell us.
That'll be VL.
Yeah. And then, so the people are like, he has people looking after him. So he got the lock and went like this, and he got the window and he just ran down a bit. He said, I'm talking to Simon. Like,
how important did you feel at that moment?
I was feeling a bit special.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Anyway, and then we spoke about how he organised he stayed up all night, and he chalked on every tyre what time he thought they might need it in the day, and organised the whole the semi trailer with all the tyres lined up and everything and he had a huge bet with Tom Walkinshaw about the win, and so. It wasn't at that time. I don't think it was direct telecast, whatever. So he was able to call Tom Walkinshaw and say, "Guess what? You owe me." It was a beautiful story, and a great guy. And I probably sat in that car just chatting with the guy for about half an hour.
Amazing.
Which is very, extremely generous. And for me, a great memory.
Yeah, it would definitely be.
But that's
amazing.
the whole British sensation, because essentially they are there, they know that you're a fellow enthusiast in cars, etc., and they'll chat with you.
Yeah, it was really something. The same exists at Laguna Seca too.
There were all the Formula One drivers there too, And it was just amazing to be able to wander up and say hello to any of them. Yeah. And then they roam up, and the fact putting the Formula One up the hill is hilarious, of course, because you see these Formula Ones, they can't go 1 kilometre without a team of 10.
Yeah,
that's right.
You've got to start them, you've got to heat the tyres up. Yeah. There's so much involved with getting one of those cars up the hill. Mm-hmm. And when it gets up the other end, the team's back on it again.
Yeah.
That's what happens when the cars are worth that much money, I guess, and they're that highly strung, aren't they?
They're highly strung.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So, Festival of Speed is really up there. You've got to go.
Yes,
and
it's wonderful.
We'll probably go together one day.
It's
a fantastic event.
Let's all hope we can travel again someday.
Yeah. And you stay in the beautiful, beautiful little villages like Petworth, just nearby, that are just so incredibly pretty.
We stayed in this tiny, it was mainly a village that was full of antique dealers.
Yes.
So all the shop windows are full.
How am I supposed to get to Festival of Speed when my wife's going
very
to
true.
stores?
And that's Petworth, and we stayed in a converted stables outside of it. A friend of mine, Mike Moore, if you're listening, hello. And we stayed in this place there, which was just wonderful, and it's like 10 minutes from the track.
Fantastic.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, really lucky.
Well, it's been a
here we are.
Yeah, we're
hour and 18 minutes later.
I know, we've been crapping on for a long time.
We didn't get to talk about what we meant to.
Whatever that was.
Yeah, who can remember?
So if anyone's got to the very end here and maybe heard this last discussion, maybe they should put the name down on the bottom, that with the driver that you've spoken about in the Jaguar, and put the name underneath there to say that you've got to the end of this.
Yeah, Win Percy.
Can you?
Win Percy.
What a lovely man.
Great. So thanks everyone for listening this evening. Deryck, thanks very much for coming this evening. We really appreciate you contributing to our prattle.
Great kudos to you and Paul for...
and thank you for Classic Cars and Coffee. It's been a great experience for us.
And thank the community in return.
Yeah,
because we have a lovely time doing it.
And it's such a great opportunity for all these people to come together with a common interest,
Cool.
And so standard stuff, subscribe, like, thumbs up, comment, all that stuff that social media demands us.
Keep those cards and letters and checks coming.
We wouldn't mind. Honestly, we wouldn't mind a beer sponsor. So if
we're looking for a beer sponsor.
Running with Thieves or Burley, please come on.
Even gin.
Gin too. We need an alcohol sponsor.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Good night.
Night.